So technically, the title of this video is clickbait because all of this happened yesterday, but it's taken me a day to really calm down because I don't know if you've ever spoken with animals before, but if you've never done it before, it's a lot to take in all at once and like understanding what it means and like comprehending what happened at a greater level has taken some time. I don't know if I've fully processed it yet, but definitely had a lot of processing to do yesterday. And I will get to all of it. But first, I gotta set the stage a bit with what led up to it. So, this past Sunday in the satsang I'm a part of, one of my teachers was talking about money and the role it plays in people like me on the spiritual path. And if I tried to explain everything he was saying, I would butcher it poorly. But the the main message that I took from it was that you need to be more willing to allow money, your needs in whatever capacity they may be met by the divine, to understand that you are cared for by something greater than yourself, and to allow yourself to be cared for that. And when he was talking about that, he specifically called me out. And we don't really, like, I don't have a very close, like, we're not talking on the regular. So I don't know. It's not like he knew that I needed to hear it particularly, but he did single me out, and I did need to hear it very specifically. I haven't taken a day off of work in over a year for that reason of I have this fear of, well, what if I miss a day or something bad happens and I like deplete all of my savings, and just all of these fear thoughts of like what if. Um, so that's kind of kept me in this thing of you gotta work, you gotta work, you gotta work. But when he said that, it really confronted me, and it really it stuck with me. And over the next few days, I just kept getting this calling, hey, you should go to this park near you. If you saw one of my previous videos, I don't know when I'm going to upload this, and I think I have another one, but when I was wearing the brown shirt in the forest, I had been feeling a few days to go to that forest, to go on a walk there, and this like really intense call. You're supposed to go there. And in my head, I was like, I don't know why. I'm being told my needs will be met. How are my needs going to be met if I go to the forest? Like, that's not going to make me feel financially secure, all of that. But over the next like week or so, it's going to be really cold and rainy. And it was either I went yesterday or I wasn't going to go at all for a long time. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll do a little work and then I will go and find whatever I need to find in the forest that's supposed to give me that safety. But the thing is, I got paid really well. I got paid a lot more than I usually did for work. I do deliveries, and the pay was like $10 more an hour than I usually would. It was almost like a confrontation of like, hey, here's how you make a choice. Your heart's telling you to go to the forest, but here's some real good money you could be making today. So are you going to take the good money, or are you going to listen to your heart? And I'm very grateful that I made the choice to listen to my heart. Because as I made the choice to go to that forest, and at first I really wasn't feeling it. I recorded that video, ended up fully filling up my phone's memory, so I couldn't record anymore. Basically, my phone was just in my pocket. It was a brick, more or less, at that point. And I just wasn't very present in the forest or whatever. I was really still in my head, not really being open to it. And then as I was just walking, I heard this bird just squawking, like, and it sounded like an alarm. It was like, I can't do birds, but it was like making these sounds that made it sound like an alarm. No idea what kind of bird it was, but as I heard that, something in me told me, no, it doesn't sound like an alarm. This is an alarm. The sign you're getting right now is this is an alarm because is an alarm. Focus up. Something's going on. So I looked around. What am I supposed to notice? There's this alarm going off. What am I supposed to notice? And maybe like 25 or 30 feet away from me was this lone deer just grazing in the grass, eating its grass. And we made eye contact. I waved at it to make sure that it didn't think I was sneaking up on it. We both acknowledged each other's presence. It went to continue grazing, and I just kept staring at it for a while. It stared at me, and then it started walking around, and I followed it from a safe distance, and it brought me to another deer, and did the same thing, did a little wave to them as well, and it brought me to a third deer, and at that point I had waved again, and then I had remembered this video I had seen at some point of these deer at some Japanese park, where like the guests would bow to the deer and the deer would bow back. And like the comments under it was like, oh, they're just doing this because they've been learned, if they've been taught if they bow they'll get food, whatever. And I was like, okay, maybe, but it's worth a shot, right? So instead of waving again, I bowed, and one of the deer bowed back. And like it shook me. I was, whoa, oh, are we communicating? Like it wasn't like it was a coincidence that we both did it at the same time. I bowed. We were making eye contact. We were both looking directly at each other, and as I did, so did the other deer. And then they continued to graze or whatever, and I watched them for a bit. And then after maybe 5 or 10 minutes, a fourth deer showed up, and this guy was real curious about me. He wanted to know what my deal was. Like immediately, we kept making eye contact. We were having a moment for a good 3 minutes. We just stared at each other in silence. It was very intimate in a way I can't express. And then I was like, okay, I'll bow to it again. I bowed to this deer, and this deer also bowed. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it went ahead and took a couple steps forward, small steps towards me, and then bowed again. And I don't know how to explain this. You just had to be there, and you got to take my word for it. But the way it was bowing and the steps it was taking, it was asking, is this okay that I'm walking towards you? It was so clear that was what was being conveyed. And at this point, my heart is racing. My heart is beating out of my chest, But I compose myself. I bow back as to say, yes, it is. And the deer takes a few more steps towards me, and then bows again as if to ask, is this okay? I bow again. It takes a few more steps towards me. And we go back and forth doing this for maybe 10 or so interactions. And it goes from 30 feet away from me to maybe 10 feet, maybe even less than that. I'm closer to any wild deer I've ever seen. And we are just in this intimate moment of communication of, is this okay? Asking consent again and again to come closer to each other. Both of us incredibly curious about, why is this happening? That might be projection on my part, but I was certainly curious. And then it just got to a point where it was maybe 10 feet away, and we had our moment, and we made eye contact for a good 3 to 5 minutes. And then, of course, as animals are to do, they went back to grazing and doing their own thing. And I continued watching for another 5-10 minutes after that. And then a woman with her pit bull off a leash came on the trail. And as soon as the pit bull saw the deer, it ran right for him and chased him off into the forest. And that was the end of that interaction. And I don't know how this comes across to you, but it touched me so deeply that this nonverbal communication with a wild animal that felt so pure, so innocent. The entire time there wasn't a single thought in my mind other than, I am here in this moment, having a moment with this deer, with this group of deer. Intense presence on a level I've never felt. And intensely aware of where I am in heaven. And I was talking about how, why do I have to go to the forest? I'm not going to get any security there. It wasn't about financial security, man. That wasn't what I was going to the forest for. It was emotional security. It was a reassurance that what you're doing is protected by a higher being, by a higher system that you cannot fully comprehend. The video I made in that forest just before was about what you're looking for is never what you really think you're looking for. And gosh, if that was not just a great example of that in the flesh, just minutes after I recorded a video teaching it to myself. So this is just to reiterate that message that I posted a few days ago. You never know what anything is for. And that can sound rude, that can sound like an insult, but no, it's so freeing. It allows you to be open to things that you could never imagine, to like true beauty that you can't imagine. And it just takes willingness. It takes complete willingness and openness. And once you give that, man, you're given the world in return. Try it out. Take a leap of faith. Peace and love.